What if leaving your body wasn't science fiction, but a skill you could actually learn? Today's guest is Andre, or the Alchemist 369. Through hundreds of conscious out-of-body experiences, he claims to have navigated non-physical realms and returned with insights about reality, the soul, and what might exist beyond death. In this conversation, we dive into what he's seen on the other side and what it might mean for the true nature of consciousness. This is one of those interviews that will challenge everything you think you know about reality. I finally did it. So many of you have been asking how I left a successful journalism career with 4 Emmy Awards at ABC News to become a full-time energy healer with a 6-figure practice. And up until now, the only way to learn that was through my private community at $1,500, which is incredible. You get direct access to me, weekly coaching calls, the whole experience. But I know that's not accessible for everyone just starting out. So I just launched something new. For $29 a month, less than $1 a day, you get access to my full 9-module course. How I broke through imposter syndrome, how I built a 500K plus audience, how I turn followers into clients that keep coming back, plus a community of holistic practitioners who actually get what you're building. If you've been waiting for abundance, this is it. Just comment heal and I'll send it to you. Andre, welcome. I'm so excited to have you and also to really get into some of the things that I've heard you talk about online because when I first heard about you, it was at the same time that a major, like massive streaming network was reaching out to me asking if I would interview like 3 or 4 of their, spiritual teachers on their platform. And these are people who, when I first started my podcast, in season 1, I would have jumped on it. I would have been so excited. And I probably would have said yes to all 3. And I politely passed on all 3. And they have massive followings, and it would have been a great business decision. But I just couldn't get aligned with the teachings. And I don't want to, so I won't call it ignorance because people think that that's a rude term, but it just means body identification. That's all. Ignorant, you're either ignorant or you're realized. The realized person doesn't have body identification. So, like the realized gurus, and then the ignorant person, from my vantage point, is just somebody who identifies with the body. So, I don't mean it negatively, but I just saw in their teachings a lot of ignorance. And so I said, I politely passed. And then you came up. And, relatively, comparatively to these massive hosts, probably not the smarter business decision. And yet it would just felt so aligned that it was an instant yes. So all that just to preference and say hello.
Hey, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the warm welcome. Thank you.
Of course. And so people know you as the Alchemist 369. So why that name? Obviously, I know what alchemy is and I know 369, but tell me about the name and what you teach.
Yeah. So the Alchemist 369 came about. I was having all these prolific out of body experiences. And in that, I was searching for truth and searching for answers. And my background is an engineer. So I'm an engineer by trade. So I was always fascinated with math and science and things of that nature. And as you step into this field, as you step into this space, you start learning about Nikola Tesla, about how he was tapping into, the ether or source to come up with a lot of his ideas. And one of the major things that he mentioned was, if you can understand the significance of 369, then you would understand the keys to this universe. So 369 plays a huge significant role in what I do. I do oftentimes 369 manifestation methods. It's like the building structure of all of creation. The 3 represents creation, the 6 represents the balance in between, and the 9 represents the completion. But with every completion, there's also a new beginning. So that's what 369 represents. And then the alchemist, I alchemize my reality. So, putting those 2 together, that's where the name came from.
It's really interesting because I've never been interested in out of body, and I've never been interested, like I've gone to the Monroe Institute with zero interest to do any out of body because I don't identify with the body. And then I also was not interested in lucid dreaming. But it's really interesting that you and I are talking this week as I start a lucid dreaming course that I'm taking, that it's kind of through the Monroe Institute. It's like an offshoot of it. And I just kind of fell into my lap the way it happened. So I'm doing it. And I'm only on like week 1, but it's already been a little interesting to play with dream world and I want to know your perspective though, because it's really so a big part of why I'm not really doing the podcast. This is more for like my Sunday videos that I'm putting out now weekly. And stepping away from podcasts is because I've noticed that every single person I was talking to was just trying to pull me back into body, 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 body. It was like how to make
Mm,
your jail prettier, how to make jail more comfortable, how to manifest while you're in jail. And I'm like, why don't
mhm,
what I teach is get out of jail. Why are you in jail? Get out of jail, get out of
mhm.
the suffering instead of trying to make. So when you say so, like right now, when you talk about like manifesting, I want to know your vantage point with that because why bother manifesting when you know about these other realms and what you really are beyond the body and mind, as you do because you have out of
Mhm.
body experiences.
Yeah, so we are creator beings by design, right? We create everything. This whole universe, this whole creation that we are in is just a manifested thought form. Now, when I manifest, I do it from a soul level, right? Because you are 100% correct. We are not this physical body. This is just an avatar. This is just a character, you know? And but our soul, our essence, the source of our energy is to create by design, right? We have souls have been creating constructs and universes to have experiences and since the beginning of time, and there is no beginning, right? So when I manifest, I just exercise that creative that same creative source of my soul, right? um so that's more so what I would what I consider manifestation. It's just exercising the creative source of the soul.
So for me, I guess my the vantage point is that I think this is where the disconnect happens. Even saying words like for me, I'm speaking in concepts, which is difficult for me because there are no concepts. But from the non-dual perspective, there is no soul. So when we say like manifest from the soul, it's like there's consciousness, but it's not your consciousness and my consciousness. It's there's consciousness, and consciousness is doing. It's spontaneously happening. It made your body go from a 5-year old to an adult man without your conscious. You didn't make that happen. There was no effort in consciously making the organs grow and doing whatever else other than eating and feeding the
Mhm.
vegetation. But so I think that's where it happens where we want so badly to be creators. And so we kind of the we it's interesting because the ego's biggest trap is to take you from one identity to another instead of like because it realizes this person is being very spiritual. They're gonna find me out. And so what I'm gonna do is just give them a new identity. So now we have this lofty, I'm a spiritual person, you know what I mean, identity and that I'm
Mhm.
the creator rather than I know from personal experience when I surrendered everything 2 years ago, my life took off. So it seems like I'm doing so much. I have my second book coming out this week while I'm finishing out my third one. Like I have podcasts, just all these things. I work with clients every day. It looks like I'm doing, but consciousness is just doing everything and I'm just watching it happen. You know what I mean? So it's like I think
Yeah.
that's where, because as you described it, I kind of got where I'm getting the disconnect for myself.
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. So there is a source of consciousness. What you're referring to is source, and being outside of my body, I have gone back to the void, which would be the closest thing to source. So, source, you can think of source as all that ever is and all that ever will be, right? This very source of energy, the very source of creation itself, right? Now, a step underneath that would be what we consider the void. Now, out of your body, when you go to the void, it is a completely black space. Imagine being deaf and blind at the same time, and all you have is your thoughts, right? But in this space, this is when you still have your individuality. Even when you're closest to source, we still have our individuality. Who you are does not change. We never merge back. We always have our individual thoughts. So even in the void, when you're closest to source, you are still your individual spark of this source. You see? So you still have your individuality. All of your thoughts stay the same. Um, Now a step, and then you come into this physical body, right? When you come into this physical body, your soul is that same spark of creation is what's fueling the body. Now, how do I know this? Because when I leave my body, I literally, my soul, I'm in my soul as soon as I leave my body. If you want to call it soul, or your essence, your true essence, whatever that may be. Now, when you leave your body, you step back into your soul. And one of the first things that you're going to realize is that your soul is also physical, right? We often get this misconception of the other side as it being airy fairy or luminescence or like ghost like figures or souls is transparent. Well, that's just not true. That may be true from the human perspective because we're on one side of the light spectrum, but as you raise your vibration, everything, your surroundings become relative to the observer. Your surroundings are relative to the frequency of the observer, you see? So as you're in soul form, when you leave this physical vessel, your vibration of your consciousness is able to rise to a point where now you are appearing as physical, and the surrounding and everything around you is also physical. It all ties into the light spectrum. And as we know, everything has light in it. Like this microphone right here has photons in it, you see, and photons are light. So this is light in a physical manifested form, slowed down to a certain vibration so it appears physical. Well, that same scale happens once you're outside as well. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that.
I'm glad you did. And I want to get into out of body because I know that that's probably the thing that people are most fascinated by, and that you're probably going to give some good insight into of like how to get there, what to do, what to notice. But just really fast, want to also, I'd
Mhm.
like to just kind of go into from also my vantage point of what you said. It was so
Yeah.
powerful because you're not just talking about it from a concept, but you see like that there's no merging. You're already that. There's no
Yeah.
like becoming enlightened. You're that. Just realize it. There's no, like kill the seeker is what my guru would say.
Mhm.
Was always just kill the seeker, the one seeking. But when you say like consciousness and that energy, the totality of everything, right, is like the final. It's actually not. It's you were prior to that. You are prior to energy. The thought, like what you're describing, is I am, the I am consciousness, God, the totality of everything. But before the totality of everything, that arose in you. But I don't mean you, Andre. I don't mean you to myself. The that pure awareness where, like you said, you can't describe it. It doesn't have a color. Imagine being deaf and blind, no color, no taste, no history, nothing. Prior to everything, witness to the birth of that totality, that consciousness, which was just the thought, I am. I am. Oh, I exist. And that one thought,
Yeah.
I exist, right? Created everything. But where did that thought arise in? It arose in you.
Mhm.
So that consciousness, it's like go one step further from that energy ball that you're getting to.
Mhm.
So I just was the only reason I offer that because I would just like nod my head and move on. But I thought it was
Mhm.
really important that if you went into this amazing, powerful state that most people can't get to and you're getting there, but you leave your concepts behind, I think you'll transcend that.
Yeah. Now, that's a good point, and you're completely right. We have to definitely leave everything that we were taught to be true here on Earth. We definitely have to leave that in the door when we start to travel these avenues, for sure, because reality is not what we've been told. Even all of our belief structures, the fear-based narratives here, everything has to basically be out the door, and you have to venture into these new avenues with an open mind because truly we know not. You see.
Mm,
Now, let's get back to what you mentioned when you talked about the beginning, right? When you were just you become aware. I've actually in an out of body experience, I've actually been to that point and access that memory of mine. You see. Now, in the beginning, it was weird. It was like I'm saying beginning, but I use this term loosely because essentially time
exactly.
works differently there, and there is no beginning. But my earliest memory that I have is I just became aware. I was just in total darkness and I just became aware,
Mm,
right? Now, when I say I'm in total darkness, I'm talking about in the beginning of creation, outside of the universe, outside of the construct, outside of everything, right? The first sensations that I felt was I just became aware. I just said, "Oh, I'm aware, like I can think," and things like that. Then the very next thing was I started to have feelings. I started to feel vibrations inside of like my whatever, my consciousness, my awareness. I started to feel things, right? And then I started to think for a little bit. I said, "Oh, well, what can I do with this?" Right? Like what can I do with this? And then from there, that's when I had visions of light, and I stepped out into, you know, out of the void, and then you have a physical soul, or a way to move and communicate and things like that. So that's kind of what it felt like in the beginning, for sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear that. It's really interesting. Yeah. Because yeah, I have so much to say about that. It's good, good. But let's get into out of body. So, what was that first? I know you were saying before we started recording that you trained with somebody, right, in the beginning. So, kind of tell me, first of all, maybe what
I'm
led you.
sorry,
Oh,
you broke up a little bit. I'm sorry.
that's okay. So, I was saying, so in the beginning with out of body experiences, take me back to when you first started. You trained with somebody, right?
Yeah. So when I first started out of body experiences, I was at first just trying to see how far I could take my consciousness, right? I understood that we are not this human body, and I was trying to really figure out how far I could take my consciousness. And then that's when I heard about astral projection. And at the time, I was like, astral projection, just hearing that term, you're assuming you're just projecting your consciousness out,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So I would lay there in focus to just projecting my consciousness out. And what happened was, I get into a really deep, strong meditation. And in like 5 or 10 minutes, I would feel as if I'm being sucked out of my physical body. Right. And that would arise a lot of fear in me because I had no idea what it was going to feel like. I had no idea even where I was going. Right. Um, so I did break through several times. The first time I broke through, I was in like my kingdom of heaven, I like to say, because there are realms, and heaven, the heavenly template is one of these realms. And what I seen there was just bright white light and just this overall feeling of bliss that a lot of near death experiences talk about. So I felt that feeling and I had that understanding. And at the same time, I was playing with what I thought was astral projection at the time. When at the same time as I was playing with that, I was having sleep paralysis every night. I was having sleep paralysis maybe five times a week. I'd wake up in sleep paralysis. And I never correlated, leaving my body to sleep paralysis. I actually really didn't even know what was going on. And then I found, Darius online talking about sleep paralysis is the gateway to the other side. So I ended up signing up for his course. And that's when I really started to fine tune my out of body experiences and controlling them even further, as well as, understanding what I'm getting into on the other side, that it's also physical, places to go, things to see, and things of that nature. And that's kind of what led me to him.
Yeah, it's really interesting too that so when you said in the beginning, I think it's really an important clarification. So what is the difference between what you said you thought you were doing, uh, projection, but what is it actually?
Yeah, so it's not really astral projection. Well, what you call astral projection, or what I am deeming as astral projection, is when you are outside, when your consciousness is outside of your physical vessel. However, you're just less conscious, less aware. Now, full blown out of body experience, you are going to be 100% physical, 100% conscious, and 100% aware. And when you're talking to beings on the other side, it's really no different than me and you having a conversation.
Mm,
Like an example of this is out of my body. I have met my mom who passed away several years ago, and that connection was even more real than the connection that I had with her here on earth because I could see the totality of her and her words. We did speak verbally, although it was not needed. Telepathic communication is a big thing, but it was. But meeting her, I could also feel her energy, her essence, her vibe, and it was just such a loving feeling. So,
mm,
a full blown out of body experience, you're going to be moving physical. It's just as if you're moving your physical body. Now, with astral projection, you can be in an astral projection state and just kind of maneuver with your mind. You can take your mind to different places and things like that. And that's kind of what I was doing when I was astral projecting because I didn't understand that, oh, I can command clarity and bring my full consciousness here, and I would also be physical and interact with my surroundings so much easier. When I was just astral projecting, it was just me, oh, I want to go here mentally, and then I'd be there and see these scenes and things of that nature.
mm.
So the number one difference between, astral projection and a full blown out of body experience is just your consciousness and your awareness. you know.
Mm-hmm. When I first started making videos, like probably 10 years ago on YouTube, was third eye abilities. So we would like teach people how to activate their midbrain. I learned it, then I started teaching people. But basically, we could even take fully blind people, tape their eyes shut, blindfold them, and they can still see everything, right? It's a bit more common now, I mean, or at least more known. Like I just did an episode of telepathy tapes talking about this, but when I was doing this 10, 12 years ago now, no, I mean, it was not a thing that people knew anything about. But what I thought was really interesting is because it was on YouTube, we had to, show visually how cool this is, what's happening. But the real magic was happening internally. Like these people their intuition would skyrocket. They would just know things. They would call relatives and say, you need to go to the doctor right now. You're about to have a heart attack. And then the person would, and they would, right? Like all these things. So that was, I thought, the more fascinating part. Does that apply to out of body experiences as well, where, okay, the experience itself is cool, but what it's actually doing is beyond that?
Yes, 100%, 100%. And I just got chills as you just brought that
Mhm.
up. The vibrations, I feel them. So an out-of-body experience certainly has the ability to unlock things in the physical, you see, because what you're doing is you're bringing more of your soul here. So you can think of these bodies as just a character, and your soul is the operator, right? Or your essence or your being, whatever you want to call who you are outside of this body. That is really what's controlling it. Now, when you have an out of body experience, you're stepping back into that energy, right? You're stepping back into that essence, the eternal aspect of yourself. And you're doing it with full consciousness, awareness, and memory,
Mhm.
right? So now when you step back into your body, you step back into your body with a piece of that source energy that you were just in. And that is able to unlock many, many things in the physical vessel. Now, an example of this is after my first big out of body. Now, when I say big out of body, I'm talking about when I left the framework of Earth, right? And I went to a higher realm. Now, when I came back into my physical body, I was able to tap into the future, just like you were saying. Somebody would speak to me about thinking about doing something, and then instantly I would see it in my mind's eye, in my third eye. I'd see that event playing out, right? That potential future, because the future is never really written. So I
Mhm.
would see that potential future, and I'd say, if you do that, this is going to happen, and it would. Now, another example of an ability that I was able to pick up is I was actually able to tap into more of the light spectrum. So, what was previously dark to me, because I would black out my room, right, to have these experiences, I would often black out my room. Now, when I came back, what was normally pitch black to me was no longer pitch black. I could now make out the furniture inside of my room in what was previously pitch black. So that told me, okay, now I'm having more access to the light spectrum. So I
Yeah.
must be vibrating at a high enough level here in the physical to even see my surroundings, right? And then I would do practices such as, okay, if the other side is here, if everything is here and now, just separated by frequency, let me see if I can raise my vibration and see things, right? And I've done it. I've faintly seen, beings and things like that, but they did appear as like ghostly because my frequency wasn't able to rise high enough to really physically see them in the physical body.
Mm.
Um, but I was able to raise my vibration enough to try to tap into the other side of the light spectrum. Um, Now, another ability that I was able to return is manipulation of energy, right? Because we have energy flowing through us all times. Our body's an electric circuit, like, right? We are electromagnetic beings. um, and I was able to control my energy field so much more. And now, before this, I never really looked into, Tai Chi, or really was too familiar with the energy of the physical body. I can just explain what I was able to experience. And what I was able to experience is my touch. I was literally able to transfer my energy from my physical body into the field of another being, of another human, right? And what this would feel like is, if somebody was sad, right? I had a partner at this time. If she was feeling sad, I was literally able to transmit my energy, and she would feel it. She would immediately feel my energy. And it was just an amazing thing. And just playing with all these abilities is true. And it really makes you realize, because you can see something outside of your body, but as soon as you're in your physical vessel as a human again and operating with your human brain, as soon as you see these things take place in your real life, that solidifies it even further for you that, okay, I really, all of this is really real, you know?
Mm. How often are you actually going out of your body these days? How many
So
nights?
at one point in time, about a year ago, it was like 2 or 3 times a week. And then the last 6 months, I wasn't really leaving all that often, but I am currently leaving, you know, like 4 or 5 times a week. I'm practicing every day, and I'm seeing success about 4 or 5 times a week right now.
Okay, so you have to still be intentional about it.
Yes. So I deliberately shut my body down and leave it or train myself to become aware throughout the night. But whenever I set my intention to do it, I'm successful about 75, 80% of the time. But also with that, they do occur spontaneously. I could
Okay.
just go to sleep with no intention, and spontaneously I'll wake up in the strong vibrational phase. I'll wake up, be floating above my body. I'll wake up in sleep paralysis, or I'll wake up in a full blown out of body, or I'll become lucid in a dream. So it's really 5 states that I've learned I can exit from. And I usually wake up in one of those 5 states about, 5 times a week right now. Yeah.
So, wh- one of the reasons why I also really wanted to have you on was to talk about something that I think um, everybody at some level can relate to, but that's fear, right? So the fear aspect, and it kind of
Mm.
made me think of it right now when you said, what did you say? Oh, about how sometimes it just happens spontaneously. So I was wondering, in those moments when you weren't planning for it, is there a fear? But also, how can people get over that level of fear, not just with out of body, but with anything in life? Like so many people I work with one-on-one are afraid of accessing their own power.
Mm. That is very good. That is a very good point. Thank you for bringing
Mhm.
that up. Now, fear is the number one way to entrap a soul. Well, really, the number one way to entrap a soul is to make it believe something, right? Because if we are creator beings by design, our beliefs are constantly creating our realities, right? And how do they do this? They do this by instilling fear in us, right? In movies, you always hear about the other side as being demonic or ghosts are scary and things of that nature, right? Well, that's the first myth that we have to break down and see, because the other side, everybody often think of as the other side is this mysterious place and nobody really knows what it is. Well, that's just not true, because I visit the other side 4 or 5 times a week right now, and I can tell you 100% those things may exist, sure, but it's your belief system that you have to understand that you are your ultimate authority. Nothing can hurt, harm, or touch the eternal aspect of yourself unless you believe it to be so. Now, this is a fundamental truth of the universe, right? So, a good way to overcome the fear is to, one, know what you're stepping into. So, say you find yourself at night. I'll get into how to overcome fear when you reach these states, and then I'll bring it back into the physical body as well.
Yeah.
But when you the number one way first to break down fear when you enter one of these states, the first thing that you need to do and the first thing that you need to realize is that you are safe. You Death is an illusion. You exist beyond here, you see. So a lot of times you feel like as if when you don't know what's going on and you feel your soul leaving your body, you will feel like you're dying, right? So the first thing that you have to understand is that death is an illusion. You don't die, you live on. Another thing that you have to understand is that you are your ultimate authority. You can't leave and then say, and you always have the choice to come back. You see, you are your ultimate authority. You are the writer of your reality, right? You always have the choice to come back. Nobody's going to make you stay there. Your body's not going to shut down. This is why near death experiences happen, because the soul has the choice to come back. And this has been shown in a quick example is if, we've seen car accidents and people survive those car accidents. And you're like, how did you survive? You were in a coma for so long. How did you survive this? Well, because they made the conscious decision to come back to fulfill their mission or to do more work here in the physical, you see. So that's another big thing. And another thing is just understanding what these states are. I just did a presentation, on my website describing what these states actually are. Because when you wake up in sleep paralysis, and you can't move, that is often a scary feeling. And a lot of people will talk about how they see demonic things in the room or scary entities in the room. Well, yeah, you're going to see stuff because the other side is always here, you see, but a lot of these things are not even scary. A lot of these beings that you're seeing, even in sleep paralysis, are your friends waiting for you, because the other side is thrilled when you can come into the hardest part of creation, which is resembled as darkness, right? This coming into earth can be considered as to like coming into darkness, right? Coming into forgetfulness. And when you're able to come into the hardest planet of all of creation, right? And in complete forgetfulness and find your way back to the light while still in the physical, like that's a major accomplishment. So the other side is rooting for you. So when you're in sleep paralysis and if you feel or sense something around you, chances are it could either be your loved one or somebody that you don't even know from this life that you just know from the other side, waiting to greet you, ecstatic because you're actually leaving or wanting to see you, deliver a message for you. 100% of the time when I felt a presence in my room, it was something of that. 100% of the time. I've never left and it was somebody scary waiting for me. I've never experienced that. And another thing that you have to understand is that sleep paralysis occurs naturally every night. It's just when our bodies enter REM sleep, your physical body shuts down. That protects you for dreaming, and things like that. And that also in sleep paralysis, what it actually is it's just your body's way of shutting down your motor senses, right? It's to let. And in sleep paralysis, your electromagnetic field will shut down because the heart is a pump, you see, and it pumps our electromagnetic field. And once, oh, I got a fly on there, sorry. And once I had a fly on there, sorry
I thought
about
it
that.
was a light
But
flight.
one,
Yeah,
yeah, it was a fly. I'm outside, so sorry about that.
no worries.
But but once your electromagnetic field of your physical body is shut down, your soul is then actually able to leave it, right? Because that's what kind of keeps your soul in is this field. So that's another way to overcome is just understanding what these states are. And if you ever wake up in the strong vibrational phase where it feels like you're having a seizure, that's just your soul's frequency rising, you see, because it's such a drastic change. The frequency from here to the other side is so drastic that you're going to feel it. And if you ever wake up in the strong vibrational phase, it is not your physical body vibrating, it's your soul body. And I know this because I would be in this strong vibrational phase sleeping next to my partner, and she would not even feel my body vibrating. And I'd say, "Hey, did you feel me? I was just shaking, very violently." And she'd say, "No, not at all." So that told me, okay, it's my soul's frequency beginning to rise so I can then access the other side, which is just higher frequency, you
Really
see.
interesting to hear you
Um,
say this from your perspective. I've only had
yeah.
sleep paralysis once that I can remember, like where I was awake. And it was interesting because it was one of the biggest teachings I had in my life was this book called The Vasista's Yoga, and it was written by the sage Vasista. And actually, Wayne Dyer told me about the book, and then he died like a few months later. So I ended up getting the book, and I had it on my nightstand. And I remember, I don't know why I was so excited. I held this book and I hugged it, and I was like, I can't wait to read this book. And I put it on my nightstand. I went to bed, and I woke up that night with sleep paralysis. I woke up. And I remember being afraid because I couldn't move. And my mouth moved. And I said, I am Brahmin, I am Brahmin, I am Brahmin 3 times. I'd never even heard the word Brahmin. I didn't know what it was. It was like 10 years ago. And the next day I start reading the book. And one of the first stories in the book is this sage telling the king's like kids, basically, if you do nothing else, meditate on I am Brahmin. And so I
Mm.
thought that was really interesting. That was the only time I ever had sleep paralysis that I recall in the waking state. And then the other thing you talked about that I thought was really interesting was also, well, actually, before that, I don't want to forget your website because you said something, but you kind of said it quickly about the different things that you just wrote about, the different phases. Is that through an online course or is it just a blog post?
Yeah, so I have a website with a members only section, and in that, I'm currently actually giving weekly presentations on, the nature of reality, the mechanics of the universe, of this realm, the mechanics of the human body, things that we're not normally taught. And then I get into actually how to leave your body, how to shut it down, the different states I've seen, and then what I've experienced on the other side, as well. So yeah, that's all there.
And I'll make sure to link that, but what's the actual name so people hear it?
It's the alchemist369.com.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
So one thing you talked about quite a bit right there was the other realm, and I still go to that vantage point of like with near death experiences where look, if somebody I come from a Druze background in Lebanon, and I mean the way I grew up,
Oh,
it
you're
wasn't.
Lebanese. My
Yeah.
grandfather's from Lebanon.
No
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
amazing. Very cool. So there's a community there called they're Druze. And with the Druze people, we would learn about reincarnation, but it wasn't just reincarnation. It was like, oh, your cousin in his last life, his mom's name was Sarah. She lives in that town over there. He died in a plane crash. He's here now. Like it was very like we knew everybody's story. Because there's this like conscious agreement that Druze would be born again as Druze and we find each other basically. It's a really interesting thing. But even with that background that I have, I now know from the grace of the Guru is that uh, even so, whether you have the construct growing up or at death of reincarnation, or you think that you'll die and Jesus will come and take your hand and send you to the clouds, whatever, right? Then that will be your
Hmm.
experience because that's the concept that you have. So the fact that
Hmm.
there's another side and they're waiting, still a concept. You know what I mean? Still, and like the guru would say, that will be your experience. You will reincarnate. Oh, go ahead.
So
Yeah.
this is why this is your experience, because on the other
Yes.
side, this is all right. So what I like to do is get to the foundational truth, right? And the number one way to do this is to leave your body and seek these answers for yourself. And when you do it with a clear vision, what you're presented has no structure behind it, right? So you're just presented with the truth, right? Now, Darius has been able to map out realms, and so we exist in a construct, and there's 12 realms, right? And in those realms are dimensional spaces, and this is what I'm beginning to map out as well as dimensional spaces. But as soon as you die, why they say whatever you believe will occur to you is this, because when you die your thought forms can manifest instantly. As soon as you're outside of this
Mm,
body, your thought forms manifest instantly. So what you will enter is what we call, or are deeming, a dimensional space, which is just created by your thought forms within the confinement of this particular realm, you see. So when you die, if you believed in Jesus, or if you believe in hell, right? If you're a Christian, this is a good comparison. So if you're a Christian and you believe in heaven and hell, when you die, it's nothing but truth, right? Because you can't fake everything's vibration and frequency, and you can't fake your vibration or frequency. You actually have to be these things. So
mm,
deep down, if you hold a subconscious thought about yourself, like, do you truly believe that you'll make it to heaven? You know, or if you have the slightest doubt and you feel like, oh, maybe deep down you didn't do everything right, and you maybe feel like you're deserving of hell, you will temporarily experience hell. Now, hell is, I can tell you 100% that it's not a real place on the other side. However, you can create your own hell. Now, people will temporarily experience this until they've had enough, until you are
yes.
able to break out of it yourself, and then that will dissolve. And there will be a point in time when you reach enough and you dissolve and you're so clear, no matter what you experience when you die, that you will reach the end truth. That's
Whew.
you know,
Yes.
without a doubt. Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
so good.
And
So good, Andre. Yeah.
yeah, and there's many near death experiences that even talk about this. I remember seeing this one near death experience of this lady where she said that she was in what felt like hell. She was being tormented by all of these beings, and then she started to sing a gospel song because she was religious, right? That's why she experienced hell. Now she sang a gospel song, and then all of a sudden she seen the light, and then all of a sudden she was out, and that experience was over. But she was like, it was very hard for her to understand. All of that is very true.
I
Yeah.
love what you're saying because it describes the same thing. It's like the concepts that you go out with, or you don't go out anywhere, but where you think you've died, but you're the witness of the person dying. Just like when somebody reads my astrology chart,
Hmm.
it's fun for me, but I still
Hmm.
say, look, you're not reading my birth chart. I was not born. You're reading the chart of somebody that was born. I was witness to his birth, you know? But it's really interesting
Hmm.
too, because I always have to reinforce that truth for myself. But it's interesting that you say that because you said something really interesting that you can stay there. You can stay there for 1,000 years, but eventually you need to transcend that state too. So whether you're in heaven
Hmm.
or hell or whatever, you could be in heaven, the most blissed out place with all your relatives that have passed before, but you eventually have to transcend that too because it's still an experience.
Yeah, yeah, and that's very true. So everything in this construct is an experience. Now, many people, but your memories do start to come back. So
Yeah.
when you're in dimensional spaces, those are thought forms and things like that. But eventually, what happens when you're on the other side long enough is you'll break out of it and you will come to base reality on the other side.
Mm.
Now, base reality on the other side, there still are layers and realms there. Now, an example of this would be like what we consider the heavenly realm, right? This is a real place. I've been there. The average age template is what we consider 30, but really it's just the way that the soul wants to present themselves. Most people, when you want to present yourself, you want to be a young, healthy adult, right? Because being a kid is strange to only Earth, and being old is strange to Earth as well. You
Right.
see, like this is the only place in all of creation where you have to be born into and die to get out of. You see, so on the other side in the heavenly template, the base template is approximately age 30. Um, and that's where a lot of our loved ones wait for us. If you want to stay in this one universe or this one construct, that's where most people will stay because it's a pretty delightful place. It's a high vibrational place. Your thoughts can manifest instantly. There's tons of people living out their physical, even their true desires there. And that's a good place to stay and wait for a loved one to pass on as well that's still here. So a lot of people do stay there.
Yeah.
Um, but when I say the truth, eventually you will reach a point where you break out of your dimensional spaces and your whole memories will come back because we are eternal, right? You already know everything. Not maybe not you as a human, but the eternal aspect of yourself, you already know everything. And there will be a point in time when you cross over where you will step back into that eternal aspect of yourself and that all knowing that's kind of what I mean.
This is like where I wanted the conversation for sure. I love this. I really want to get into the mapping out dimensions too, right? So when I was at Monroe, they talked about this. We went up to Focus 21, which is beyond physical reality. It was incredible. I go there sometimes. With my sessions with my clients, when I do energy work, I will go into Focus 12, and like beyond time and space. And it's really nice to access these, but like I had this conversation with them as we're having now too, of like, because they're mapping it out and they're like, oh, there's the Catholic section, there's the Muslim section, there's the, Jewish or the Buddhist or whatever sections, and they all look different compared to what their concept of heaven is or concept of the afterlife. And
Mm-hmm.
but they kind of described it the same way where it's an in between. It's not the end. Like they're still somewhere from there. So I love that there's like this correlation that you all have in this experience. It's almost like when people do
Yeah.
ayahuasca and they all see the same people or the same beings. It's almost like, okay, it's too many people seeing the same thing at this point.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
very true. So yeah, I actually have I can pull if I can pull up some of my slides if you don't mind me sharing
Sure.
my
Yeah,
screen,
yeah.
I can
So,
as I get into this. Yeah.
are
Uh,
you showing like the map that you've done?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
A little map or something. Yeah, I can share. Um, let me see here. All right, let me share my screen. All right, so can you see this?
I see it. Yeah. There we
All
go.
right, so this is the architecture of reality. Now, I can't take credit for all of this, as Darius is really the one that mapped out that there were 12 realms here.
Mhm.
But what I can say is that I have seen the realms. They were shown to me in a vision out of my body, and they flashed by layer after layer. And in this experience, I was able to realize that, okay, this realm was made in the image of the higher realm. Like realm one is made in the image of realm two is made in the image of realm three, and so on and so forth. But in the beginning, what I have been able to gather out of my body is that there is this source, there is this source energy, right? And now just a step below that would be like what we call the void, right? And now there's also planes of existence outside of this construct. So you really have to understand where we are. Right now, we are in a universe, right? So where is this universe? This universe is on a plane of existence outside of all creations, right? So outside of this universe, there is source, then you have the void, and then there's other planes of existence as well. This is where people see a lot of when they say they see beings and it's just all light and energy. they're in one of these planes outside of this construct. And now there is a plane where there's many creations, many universes. This is just one of many. And there's a plane here. I like to say this is plane 5. I believe there's 12 planes outside of here as well as there's 12 realms. I don't have confirmation of that yet, but I'm gonna get there.
Mm.
But what I do know is that there is a plane of existence where there's many creations. And when you're in this plane of existence outside of here, you will see this physical universe. You can see it. It looks like a snow globe. You
Mm.
see, like there's a foundation, there's a firmament, there's all of that. And then inside of this one universe, you see when you look in, you'll see that there's different layers. And the different layers is Darius has mapped out that there's 12 layers, right? But in these realms, like the earthly realm would be one of these layers, you see. But in each of these realms, there's also dimensional spaces that we can create with our thought forms, right? And out of your body, you create so many dimensional spaces. An example of a dimensional space is dreams, right? Like dreams is a lot of people's thought forms, dimensional spaces. Um, Now, what I was going to get into now, you can create dimensions in heaven as well. So that may be what like
Wow.
Monroe's
It gets so
discussing or
layered.
what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in realm 5, now one of these realms, Darius has also deemed heaven to be realm 5, right? But in realm 5, you can create dimensional spaces and you're in soul form. You're in a physical body when you're in heaven, but you're in soul form, and it's a different template because each of these layers have certain rules and templates. Like an example is realm 1, we have to experience a delay of time, you have to be born and you have to die to get out of here. That's one example of this realm. Well, in realm 5, there are very minimal rules there. That's why manifestation can occur instantly because you're outside of time and your manifestations happen. It's really like all the desires of physicality with like no limitations. Like you can literally create your own heaven. But what you can also do is create a dimensional space there, and that's probably what he's talking about, those
Yeah.
dimensional spaces. But there is also a base layer there. There is
What about,
also a
so
base layer.
I can see why people would want to stay there for a while. It does sound great, but when you were saying our, like this, not our, but this physical reality here, that's one of those little bubbles on the bottom left of the right side.
Yeah, yeah. So I get into
Okay.
this a little bit more. Let me
Because that
see
is
here.
interesting from like
Outs.
this. Oh yeah, like that. Like the sage would say that this entire reality, even though it feels like many lifetimes, let's say 100 lifetimes, 100 years each one, that it's literally just a bubble in the ocean appearing and disappearing, right?
Man,
It's like seconds, the last
man,
seconds.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But
It
I love
really
that you do
does.
give that visual of the bubble, It's like each one of those is just a bubble that appeared and disappeared to consciousness.
Yeah, it really does. And when you said, so when you leave your body and you experience other lifetimes of yours, because I've accessed my soul records or what people consider your Akashic records, and I've experienced different lifetimes of mine, several at this point. Some on none on Earth, like none in these 6 continents that we know of, but I have been to a place that's beyond here. And a lot of my lifetimes were in the galactic realm, is an ET, and even before that in the ancient Egyptian realm. But when you experience these lifetimes, you have an instant knowing. Is like as soon as you leave your body and you're relieved of this physical vessel, it's like wow, that was just a blink of an eye.
Wow.
It's literally a blink of an eye because you have no concept of time there. It's now there is still a sequence of events on the other side. However, why do we feel time so hard here? We feel time so hard here because if you want to grow your hair out, you say that's going to take years, you
Wow.
know? Well, there you can grow your hair out instantly, you see? So, like, that's where we lose the illusion of time, but there are still a sequence of events. Like, some things do happen, before,
But where does
but
lucid
we don't
dreaming
expect.
fall into that? Sorry.
Oh, lucid dreaming.
Yeah, how does that
Well,
fall
I get
into
into
that realm?
that.
Because like when you said grow your hair out, I feel like that's how lucid dreaming would be, where it just kind of happens.
Yeah. So, all right. So dreams are a form of dimensional spaces. You see, so Like I've been able to see dreams outside of my body and things like that. So what's going on is your subconscious, our consciousness never needs to sleep, you see. So the physical body needs sleep, but your awareness, the eternal aspect of yourself, we don't need to sleep. So when the body's sleeping, if you're unconscious, you're going to just create thoughts in your head, and then that creates a dimensional space because our thoughts are also physical on the other side. Like everything is physical. So when you're sleeping, you're consciously thinking of these thoughts, and that creates a dimensional space, and now you're going to be in it and experience it. Now, a lucid in a regular dream that you can recall or remember, I say you're about 30 or 35% aware, right? Now, a lucid dream, I'd say you're about 50% aware.
Mm.
And in these dimensional spaces, your thoughts manifest instantly. So that's why if you're in a lucid dream, you can think things. And another way to be able to verify what I'm telling you guys, so it's not just me saying this. If you are ever in a lucid dream and you ever know you are dreaming, look at your hands. Look at your hands. You will be able to make out the individual lines in your hands, and you can do a technique such as like clarity now, or I am fully conscious and aware here. And as you say that, as you look in your hands, you will literally feel more of your soul, more of your awareness come into your dream body, or whatever you want to call it. And at that moment, you will be so much more powerful in your dreams, and you can literally manipulate
Mm.
the surroundings in your dreams. And you can also break out of your dream and then go into base reality on the other side as well. Yeah.
You know, it's so interesting. Can you actually consciously, not just you, but a person, like the way you just described that technique, you just literally have the intention that I'm going to look at my hands in the dream?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So there's different stages. I'm actually teaching how to lucid dream on my website as well, and break out of there. But what it is there's stages, right? So first you have to train yourself to become lucid in a dream, you see. And then once you become lucid in a dream, if just because we're having this conversation now, this might be enough to trigger your subconscious if you're ever in one of these states. So next time you're in a dream, if first you have to become aware in a dream, right, lucid, and then you're about 50% conscious, and then the next step after that is train yourself to, oh, I want to have a full blown out of body, or I want to be fully here. And then from there, when you train yourself to look at your hands, and the trick is to try to make out as much detail as possible, because this forces your awareness to be there. It's like, oh, he's really becoming online, you see. And or you can even touch the ground. If you ever become lucid in a dream, touch the ground and touch something, and feel the physicality of it.
Mm.
Because on the other side, we don't even physically touch anything. Like right now, I'm not even physically touching this microphone because the electrons are propelling each other away, right? But on the other side, you don't have any of that. You can actually touch it. So when you touch something on the other side, it's physical. Like it is more physical than here because you can touch the entire chemical makeup of it.
Wow.
So if you're ever in a dream and you touch the ground or the earth or any physical object, and you see and observe the physicality of it, that as soon as you feel it, your whole awareness will be there, like 100% conscious and aware in this dream. And then you can navigate that space. You can either, have live out your best, the wildest dreams that you want, create your surroundings, or you can break out of the dream and navigate base reality. Yeah.
I love what you said too about just having this conversation could trigger it. So could somebody just listening to this right now also have that triggered from just hearing you tell that?
Yeah, a hundred
Yeah.
percent, and 100%. Now it could trigger multiple things. It can trigger you becoming aware in a lucid dream, and you having the idea to look at your hands. They could be like, "Oh yeah, Andre said look at my hands, and now I'm physically aware." It can trigger that. It can also trigger just having these conversations, and this is why this is so important. And thank you for having me on, is because we need to wake up the collective and understand that we exist outside of here, right? So just a conversation like this and me talking about waking up in the vibrational state, waking up in sleep paralysis, that out of body experiences are real and physical. That is enough to trigger somebody to wake up in one of these states and have an out of body experience just spontaneously, just because now they know it's real and it's possible. You see? So yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
one
it's
hundred
so
percent.
important. You're right. Thank you for coming on too and speaking the truth because, I was telling my mom this morning, even on the phone, that it's like the Bhagavad Gita, which is the most foundational text probably in Hinduism, right? And the story is of Arjuna. But I always tell my clients, because they're always looking for more certifications, more this, more that. And I tell them, did Arjuna ever do Kriya Yoga or meditate or do any of that? He just heard the word of the Guru, of Lord Krishna. He heard the truth and he self-realized from just hearing it, because there's something
Mhm.
that triggers a remembrance. But there's no mention of him doing yoga or meditation or any of that. He didn't have a sadhana, he didn't have a practice. He was on the battlefield and he heard the truth. And
Yeah.
so,
And you
yeah.
see, it's because everything is frequency and vibration, right? Your brain is not the source of consciousness, it's just a receiver, right? So these conversations get your brain acting on these frequencies, right? And when you are entertained with a certain frequency of a conversation, that allows more thoughts of that nature to come into your field, to come into your essence, to come into your being, right? So with that, if somebody's open and truly listening to this, that allows these thoughts and these feelings to come into their field, and then that's kind of what triggers their subconscious throughout the night. You see, the
Wow,
same
man.
same is the same example as what you just said. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Well, brother, is there anything that you want to add? Anything that you think we should leave people with?
Um, yeah, oftentimes in this life, it's very easy to forget who we are and where we are. Just understand that you come from love, you are love, and you return back to love. That's probably my last statement.
Beautiful. Thank you. And we'll make sure to link everything so people can know where to find you. And if they're interested in exploring and going beyond physical reality, I feel like this is a perfect first step. And you can always tell because when someone speaks with conviction, it's like because you're not just speaking from concept, but from an experience.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's the
Yeah.
number one way to truly experience the eternal aspect of yourself. Thank you so much. I
Mhm.
appreciate it.
Thank you.